If you notice someone doing really well in something, right? You can say, hey, if you can do this, I bet you can do a lot of other things. What about this one? This is a good one. Oh, if I can make $100 here, or $500 here, or $1,000 here, I can make all the money I want. If I can succeed at closing this person, this client, I can do anything. If I can do this deal, or if I can succeed at this project, I will be successful. I am successful. Notice how you can just inductively utilize your language to create much better beliefs in your life. And we'll get to how you can use this to solve problems more and more later on. But remember, as you do all of these things, get into learning state. Get into learning state, because learning state is actually a specific kind of trance. And when you're in that state, all of your resources become available to you. And if you can do that, if you can get into learning state, that means you can easily do anything that you want in NLP, as well as succeeding in your business and your relationships and your family life, as well as whatever else you want and care about. So, now, before we move on to the next section, I want to talk about what reality is. Because reality in your mind is a constructed thing. It's a construction. It's a construction that has 4 elements. Now, in the old days of alchemy, they speak of fire, earth, air, and water. That's cool. Now, in this training, we're not going to dive too much into that. What we're going to talk about is the modern perception of what reality is. Space, time, matter, and energy. So if you can learn how to work with one of these elements, you'll find that you can learn anything. And you can work with all the other elements. And I'm not just using inductive thinking here. I'm telling you the truth. For example, in like to dislike, just by moving something, a coding of how you perceive, let's say, an object that you want to dislike, a food, right? But it's something that you used to like and you want to dislike. It's easy to just move that in space. Of course, in the space in your mind. And by moving it farther, you begin to dislike that thing that you want to dislike. It's easy. And all of a sudden, how you view this object or this food, the energy changes. It's also that this matter, the matter of this food or this thing that you want to dislike, begins to change in your mind. And that moment on, in time, you begin to dislike it. It's very interesting. By just changing one element of this so-called reality, you'll be able to alter reality itself. So if you can learn how to work with space, time, matter, and energy, and we'll cover many of these things in the training, you'll find that it's easy to change your reality. Carl Pribram said something very interesting, and this may help you see how you can take more responsibility. Because in Master Practitioner, we like to go deeper, don't we? So Carl Pribram said, the human nervous system is a hologram of the universe. Interesting. You are a hologram of the universe. Does that not seem to hint at the external world is nothing but internal? There's nothing outside. Interesting. And truly, therefore, at any moment when you think about it, no matter who or what you think you are, you're always more than that. Right? Because your nervous system is as vast as the universe. That's very interesting to think about. You truly are more than what you think you are, aren't you? You are. And what you're capable of doing is far more than what you may begin to realize. And I'm saying this very, very specifically, because you'll notice that you'll begin to notice you are able to do so much more because of this training. And even then, you're still much more than this. As we begin to talk about quantum linguistics, there are several things that we want you to transcend. There are several things that we want you to build a new model of the world. Now, there are things that you already believe in the past. We would like to give you a new model of the world. For example, in the old model of the world, cause and effect is just a presupposition. People say it. Does it mean so? We don't know. But in the new model, when you begin to consider quantum linguistics and learn how to utilize them, the techniques, and that, the past, we believed that the past creates the present and the future. Well, really, everything is created in the now. And we can truly transcend time according to our understanding. Well, what does that really mean, right? Because do you really ever experience the past? There was a famous saying in the book, The Time Machine, by H.G. Wells. He said, don't we all have a time machine? and I'm paraphrasing here, don't we all have a time machine? Our memories take us to the past, and our dreams carry us forward. And as you consider that, still, you are in the now. Even when you travel to the past, you're experiencing the past in the now, don't you? Yes, you do. And, in the old model of the world, we also used to believe that there is an objective world. Before the Western science came into, the classical view of science came into our reality. Before all of this, before the industrial age, we used to believe that we were all connected. And frankly, now we do again. We are intimately connected to all that there is. And you'll see how this makes more and more sense as we teach you quantum linguistics. Now, people will say sometimes, I have to know everything before I can do, right? Let's say you're in real estate. I have to know everything in real estate before I begin. No, you need to acquire certain knowledge, but you should begin as quickly as possible. Because in this new model of the world, we understand that confusion actually precedes a high level of order. So if someone comes to you and they say, hey, I'm confused, that's good. Because you'll find that you're confused in this training from time to time. And that's good. Because that precedes a high level of understanding. Confusion precedes understanding. Just like the so-called failure, which is just feedback, precedes the learning, and the learning leads to understanding and success. So when someone says, I have to know everything, well, you'll find that if they're confused, that's a good news, because they'll learn. They'll learn very quickly after that. And if you find yourself not understanding everything and knowing everything in this training, it's okay, because you'll have a high level of understanding very soon. The brain and the neurons and the neurotransmitters and the organs in the old model of the world were viewed as separate. But really, are they not physically connected? They are. How could we think of them as all separate if they are actually connected already, right? And according to Carl Pribram, you can look up his theories and the things that he has taught. Very, very interesting things. Our body is a hologram. It's holographic in nature. And our mind is actually everywhere that our body is. It's one with the body. And now, granted, we're not doctors. We're not psychologists. We're not psychiatrists. We're not mental health doctors. We do not say anything we say in this training as medical truth. Consider the things that we teach in this training as some of them literal, some of them metaphorical, some of them both. So let it be you who decide. So we also begin to build this new model of the world as we understand, hey, our body and our mind is non-local and it's integrated. And the separation of other people and me really is an illusion. It's totally an illusion. There was a famous saying when an old Indian chief was asked, hey, what are we going to do with the others that came into our land? He said, what others? There are no others. See, everyone and everything is totally connected, interconnected. In the old days, they used to say to the kids, they'd say, look upon the mountains, look upon the ocean. That's you. And they would look at the plants and the flowers and the fruits, and they would say, that's you. And they would look at their family and point at their family and their friends and say, that's also you. Because you cannot perceive them without being connected in some way. What you perceive of them is your projection. Now, once again, there are things that we will talk about that are metaphorical in nature. Such as, what if you perceive yourself as a projector, and you're projecting what's inside of you to this external world, this universe? And so what you experience internally gets put into your reality. So if you can think inductively, you can think from the inside out. And you can solve problems from within and notice the result on the outside. That's powerful. That's really powerful. Now, also, when you begin to think, there's a field, they call it the connective physics. And when you begin to see that the universe is always connected, energetically, and many, many scientists will say nowadays that we're one with the universe. Many gurus out there will say the same. And they have been saying it for years, decades, hundreds, if not thousands of years, that we're one with the universe. One thing that you do want to understand is that when there is no movement, the universe's response is really small, extremely small. If you have no movement, there's not much of a response. And I don't mean just physical, I mean mental, emotional. So if you want change externally, you've got to change internally, right? And change implies an increased universal contribution, meaning that when change is initiated within you, the universe responds accordingly. And the universe's response is dependent upon the degree of change initiated. So the greater the amount of change, the greater the universe's response. That's why you're here in this training. The more you change, the more your world changes. That makes sense. The greater the rate of change also, the greater the contribution from the universe. And that your local energy must be put into the system by taking massive action. You taking massive action to initiate a universal reaction. Now, does that mean that you always have to take massive action? Hey, that would be a good thing. But I don't mean just physical. I don't mean just physical. If you are taking massive action in the mental, emotional space, that means change is also occurring. And that's putting energy into the system. Now, this is also another reason why when your client or your company or whatever you do pays you, that energy from that individual or that system, that organization, actually is putting energy into you. And that they will be getting a wonderful return. They should, right? Especially working with you. And when you invest in yourself, you're investing energy into the system. You are initiating a universal reaction. That's why it's always good when you're investing in yourself. That change, that investment will initiate a response. And so I remember that experience, and many of you have heard the story. When I signed up for this training, a very special training, and my trainer asked me, hey, when are you going to pay this off? And I just paid it off with my card. And I'm like, what are you saying? I thought I just did. He said, no. I mean, when will you pay it off to the bank? When will you pay off your credit card? I'm like, oh, interesting question. Why do you ask? He said, well, because when you pay us off, you will experience a level of return. Really a great return, because we're going to give you the training. You're going to experience massive changes. But when you pay off the bank, that's another level of return. So you're completing your energy exchange, which forces basically the universe to respond to you. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I've noticed many times that when I paid off my training, and I'm here encouraging you to pay off your training as well. When I paid off my training, I noticed that I was able to get paid really quickly. In fact, there were many times that when I paid off my training, that same day I got paid, unexpectedly. And a funny story, I one time owe a contractor of mine just a couple $100. And it wasn't that I intentionally didn't pay him, not consciously at least. I did not remember consciously. So I was reminded. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad you reminded me. Thank you. And it's been 2 weeks. I'm like, oh man, I should have paid you 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. Let me pay you right now. And I did. I paid right then and there. And as I paid, literally minutes later, I got a transaction that came through. I had an email notification that told me, hey, you just got paid X amount. And it was many, many times over what I had paid the contractor. And this payment that came through to me was unexpected. So begin to see your external world, including your financial situation, your relationships, your work, your fitness, and your personal growth, your spirituality, your family, all of the above, everything you experience in your universe. Let that be a sign that you ought to check within yourself and figure out the pattern of how it connects. This is inductive thinking. And if you think beyond this boundary that you've been given in life, which, this boundary could be anything, right? Remember the story that I have told you, and some of you may not have heard this before. I remember when I was a kid, I was taught, hey, if you succeed in school or in your job and you make money, then you should feel good. But what if the problem is me not feeling good, therefore I didn't do so well in school or at work at that time, right? Inductively, I began to see, what if that boundary was wrong? What if it was reversed? What if by feeling good and feeling successful, I'm able to do better because it produces the behavior that matches the state I was in and perpetuates itself? Well, that turned out to be the truth. So when you begin to want success, begin to feel it inside. And this is totally different than fake it till you make it, because faking it implies that you don't feel it. We don't believe in faking it. We believe in genuinely and authentically believing and feeling and experiencing what you want internally. Because if the universe is a hologram, you are creating that in the universe. And if you are a hologram of the universe, by creating within you the things you want externally, you're creating it externally. I know we're getting somewhat metaphysical, but there's a lot of science behind what we're saying here. So let's dive into the core patterns of quantum linguistics. Essentially, we're using Cartesian logic to think about language and how we talk. So for example, let's say someone comes and tell you and they say, I can't do this. I can't be successful. Or I can't do X. or why.